I'm here to talk about advanced leadership and organizational behaviors. More specifically, what we're going to be covering is the worker-supervisor management relationship. Now, I know for a lot of first-year sport management students and early into their career sport management professionals, this can be kind of a foggy topic and just understanding the relationship and who has what role. So I thought what I'd do as sports management professionals, I think it's fair to say we've all been on or are on a sports team. So I'm going to be comparing a sports organization to a sports team, comparing the roles through the chains of leadership to make things a little more clear for those who are new to the concept of advanced leadership. So we'll start by just covering all the roles first. So in an organization, you're looking at workers, supervisors, management, and just for the sake of conversation, I've decided to throw in ownership as well. So these are the 4 layers of leadership that we're going to be going through, and their counterparts on the sports team side of it. We have, compared to the workers, is the athletes. For supervisors, we've got the team captains. Now for supervisors, we could have went with team captains or with coaches. For the sake of conversation though, we'll go with team captains for multiple reasons. They share a lot of the same qualities, but I think for what we're going for here, we're better off comparing the coaches to management. For that, I've got coaches slash GM if we're looking at professional sport, for general manager. And ownership is pretty self-explanatory. The guy who owns the organization, the uppermost management, or owns the team. If we're talking about collegiate sport though, we could say the athletic director, or AD for short. So we'll be going through it layer by layer so that we can talk about who has what role and find the similarities between the sports organization and the sports team and make things a little clearer, again, like I said, for those who are new to the concept of leadership and, of course, the leadership roles. So we'll start with worker slash athlete. Now when we're talking about a worker or an athlete, we're talking about the people who do the work. They do all the nitty-gritty. They get down to it. They're the ones who are performing those small medial tasks that ultimately help the organization or the team see themselves to success. They also are the face of each. They represent each team respectively. When you think of a sports organization, for example, let's not even talk about sports. Let's just talk about a workplace. If we're talking about a factory, what are you going to think of? You're going to be thinking of the people who are on the line, the ones who are passing each part down and making sure that the hard work gets done. When you think of a team, you're going to be thinking of the athlete. They're the ones who you see, they're the ones who you think about, they're the ones who are out there performing, putting up numbers, practicing so hard, and doing all those things that we as sportos really love. A huge key to being a successful worker or athlete is skill. The worker, and I'm going to put a star because I personally feel like this is the most important aspect of it. The worker slash athlete needs to be skilled in their field. If you're applying for, let's say, an event and tournament coordination job, but you have no event experience, let's say your experience is in the financial part of it, you're probably not going to find much success. Just the same, if you played, let's say, hockey for 17 years, and then you get to collegiate sport and you suddenly decide you want to play volleyball, you're probably going to have a tough time, of course, unless you're a freakish athlete. So you need to be skilled in what you're doing, and that is a big part of the management. They're going to put you in a position to succeed. But of course, if you're applying or trying out, you're going to need that skill. And that's not to say that you can go into it without skill. Maybe you can go in with a little bit and just attain the skill. Work hard, be practicing, late nights at the office, things of that sort. So again, we're looking at the worker/athlete. They're the ones who are doing the nitty-gritty work that the people in the suits would not be doing. They're the face of your team. Whenever you think of your team or organization, you're going to be thinking of the workers. They represent it. They are the face of your group. And of course, they need to be skilled in what they're doing. They need to either take the time to develop their skill or be lucky enough to go into their job or team with the skill. So next, what we'll talk about is supervisor. We'll put SUP for short, and we'll put a C for captain. So your supervisor/team captain. Whenever you think of a team captain on your respective sports team, you may not be thinking of the best athlete on your team. You might be thinking of the person who has really good leadership skills, really good organizational skills. And these are exactly the traits that separate the rest of the workers from the supervisor, just as those would be the traits that separate the team captain from the rest of their fellow athletes. They possess those leadership skills so that they can take a group of people and lead them towards the desired goal. That's why a manager would appoint a supervisor to their position, or a coach would appoint a team captain to their position. So, when we're talking about a supervisor, we're thinking about someone who can lead and organize. Again, just reiterating, they may not necessarily be better than any of their fellow workers. In fact, they might actually be worse than some of them. But their ability to keep everyone on task, and ensure that everyone avoids conflict. We'll put no conflict, is what will ultimately separate them. So reiterating, they need to be knowledgeable in their field. They may not be better than their fellows, but they can lead and organize a group really well. They're in charge of keeping everyone on task, remind everyone what the goal is and how they are to get there, and ensure that everyone avoids conflict along the way. So next, we'll talk about management. Slash coaches, general managers, GMs, if we're talking about professional sport. So when we're talking about a manager or about a coaches and GMs, we're going to be looking at the 4 management functions, which ultimately fall down to planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. These are the 4 main points of management. They summarize just about everything that a manager and coach will do for their respective organization or team, and making sure that their group sees plenty of success. So, we'll call it PLOC. So for PLOC, the P, planning, essentially is meant to summarize the fact that this group is in charge of creating a detailed plan, and here will be our statistic, create a map, which we'll call our detailed plan. Detailed plan that is made and aimed at the desired team goal. It's supposed to cover the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why, how, who are we going to involve in this plan, how are we going to do it, when are we going to set it into action. This is all the things that a coach would have to decide for their team. What kind of training regimen are we going with? When are our practices going to be? How often are we going to practice? Are certain groups going to practice on certain days? Just like the manager would say, okay, if we want to hit this number of revenue, how are we going to get there? What resources are we going to put out? Who are we going to involve in the plan? When is this going to take place? Are we going to need late nights, early mornings, so on and so forth? So the manager / coach is to create a detailed plan aimed at the organizational goal. Second letter in PLOC is the L for lead. Leading, pardon me. So that essentially just means that they need to lead the way. They need to get it started, and if necessary, appoint people to help them along the way. So this is where your supervisor / captain would come in. Make sure someone's helping you along the way. You need to be the one to start the plan. But that doesn't mean that you have to be alone. So appoint other leadership if necessary. Be the one to lead the way. Get it started. Make sure that everyone understands what they're doing and get the plan into motion. Third letter in PLOC is the O for organizing. And this is arguably the most complex part of PLOC for the manager. You need to allocate people and resources. So people and resources. Allocate your people, your workers, your athletes. Allocate resources. Make sure that everything is in a position that it needs to be in to succeed. As a coach, you're not going to take a guy who is 6'3" on your basketball team and make him your starting center. You're probably going to make him your point guard or shooting guard because, let's face it, at 6'3", he won't have the necessary skills to play your 5 spot. But if you take what he is good at, take what he has, the tools that he has, allow him to succeed. Put him in a position to help your team. Put him in a position to help your organization. Make sure your people are doing what they're good at. If they're not good at it, help them develop. Make sure that they can be good at it. Allocate your resources. Make sure that you're putting out what you want to get in. Otherwise, of course, you're just going to end up flat broke, and let's face it, ownership will not like that. Then, of course, in PLOC is the C for controlling. And that's very simple. Oversee the plan. Similar to the supervisor, make sure everyone stays on tasks and make the necessary adjustments along the way. If something isn't working, figure out why it's not working and make sure it does. If that is not doable, change the plan. Do something else so that you can make it work. Control the plan, make sure that everyone is on task, and doing what they need to. Then, of course, there's ownership and your AD. Hire and fire. Decide what resources you're going to bring in and put out. It's very simple. I hope that this has shed some light for everyone. Thank you once again, and good luck to all the young sport management professionals.